Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome folks, today the Hungry Gamer is back with another mini review, and today we're talking about Castle von Loghan. Loghan, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's the castle game. And this is one that I am very embarrassed to say has taken me the longest time to cover. And the reason for that simply is I was asked to do it probably a year and a half ago. And it probably took 6 months from when they said, hey, we have games, will you do it, until it actually shipped. There was an issue with the fulfillment partner and it just wasn't moving. And then so it finally showed up, I don't know, maybe 9 months later, and I just have not been able to squeeze it into my schedule. And it started to fall through the cracks, which is horrible. And I'm very upset with myself about that. But I finally made the commitment and put it down on the table and said, okay, what's up with this game? And I'm really, really glad that I did. So what is this game? This is a time travel game. And what's happening is in the far, far future, things have happened. Bad guy has a time travel machine. He's gone back and he set himself up as like this king in 1077. And he has Castle von Loghan because he is His Royal Majesty Emperor King von Loghan, or Augustus von Loghan. That's what he calls himself. And you and your time agent buddies are going to go back and you're going to try to stop him. And the game plays, 1 to 8 players, but it does recommend that you play with at least 4 characters. So, if you're playing with 1 player, then you're running all 4. And you're going back and you're trying to accomplish these missions on the board. And after you accomplish one mission, there's big story cards you're kind of going to be reading through as you go, and you're going through this deck and you're finding out new things are popping up in the castle as you're going on, and there's random events that you're dealing with. But whenever it is that you finish, and when you get to key moments in each mission, because the game comes with 10 missions, there is an 11th one available through the Kickstarter Deluxe Edition or something like that, which I do not have. Then you're going to be able to, at various times, go to the dialogue book and get a kind of longer, more in-depth accounting of kind of what went on and how the characters are dealing with things. And you're going to get most of your details of your story there, little bits and blurbs in the cards themselves. And it's something that I think actually works pretty well. But as you go through, missions are going to take you through time. So sometimes you're going to be back in 1077. Other times you're going to be in 2077. Other times you're going to be in 3077 as you're moving through time and playing on these different maps. But always at this same castle as you're kind of chasing down things that are traveling through time, trying to, save the universe and all of that. And then, as I said, each player has a character, and there's 8 different characters to choose from, and all of them come with their own unique combat deck and abilities. And you're either going to win all 10 missions, or you're going to lose at some point along the way. And there is a competitive way that you can play single missions. You just kind of jump and do one mission, and you're trying to see who does the best as you're trying to accomplish the goal, and you're able to kind of split yourselves off and go different directions. But with all of that said, what do I like about this game? There's a couple things that I really, really like about this game. The first one is it does feel different from other kind of adventure crawlers that I've played. And that's because your party's always staying together completely, and you're moving them around, but you can move as far as you want. As long as there's nothing blocking your way, there's not a locked door, there's some event you have to stop on, just go wherever you want. It even specifically says, if there's something that you don't like, well, you can leave the castle, walk all the way around to the back of the castle, find another way to get in and move around. I think that's very, very interesting, very clever. It takes away some of the sometimes frustrating bits of movement that you can have in dungeon crawl adventure games, or just trying to get somewhere. And it kind of takes that away, and I do enjoy that. I also really enjoy the way the events work and a lot of the story beats work, where you get a card and it'll have the story, and then it's going to give you 4 options, and each character is going to pick what 4 options they want. And people can pick the same thing, people can get different things, it doesn't matter. Though it does actually recommend that everyone doing the same thing is usually a bad choice, because if everyone does the same thing, you might get hammered if you pick a choice that's going to hurt you, because you're sharing your health and you're sharing your clarity, which is like your mental acuity. You're sharing all of that as a team, as a group. So, but it's really interesting to kind of make those choices, and you kind of look at your characters. What's the character like? What choice do you think they would make? That is very, very fun. And the results of those are very, very interesting and very, very, fun. I really like that system. The next thing that I think is stand out really good is the way the combat works. The conceit behind the game is these time agents, you have these time suits, which actually allow you to kind of very briefly jump back and forward in time. For a matter of seconds or moments, you can do that. And so what happens is when you're doing combat, your items and weapons you have are going to determine how many cards, your combat cards, are going to flip out. And every character has a unique deck, and every deck is totally unique and is about 2/3 cards that are going to be beneficial and a hit, and about 1/3 ones that are going to be a miss or a counter attack or something like that. That's not the exact stats, but it's close. And so at the beginning of combat, you get to move your gear around, get whatever you want. In the example that you're seeing, I'm flipping out 3 cards. And what you'll notice is the 3 cards are going to come out and they stay in that order. The way that you're able to then move them around, and it matters because sometimes cards are going to be more or less effective depending on what they're next to in the order of cards you have. Or maybe a bad guy's block card, well, it's going to block everything that is to the right of that card. Well, it doesn't matter if you move that to the end of your sequence there. So you're able to spend your energy, and based on the number of little hourglasses of the cards, you can move cards in the order to maximize what it is that you're able to do, and then you kind of add everything up, and then you're able to, boom, hit one bad guy that you happen to be fighting. And to do that, you're using your energy. Your energy is also how you activate your special abilities. And I think it is really inspired. It is really clever. It is an amazing puzzle, because then you start getting other characters working together, and this character is going to allow you to have initiative, meaning you get one more card that you draw, and you kind of swap that card in or swap something else out. There's characters that let you move cards around for free. There's things that are going to give you a bonus if only this other character in the 3rd spot has this type of thing. It's really an amazingly cool puzzle. It is awesome. And I think really that is what makes this game one worth checking out, is really that combat system is so clever. And the last thing that I'm going to say here is I actually enjoy the story. I think it's a pretty darn clever story. It's solidly written. It's not the greatest writing in the world, but it's a good enough writing that I'm curious as to what's going on. I want to follow these story beats. And there were some times that I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And I think that's really good because it keeps you wanting to kind of come back. Once I finally started this game, I just played through it very quickly until I could kind of find out what was going to be happening. So what are my quibbles with the game? Well, the first one is it has this time travel element, but the time travel is showing up more in the effects that the bad guys have. Because depending on what era you're in, it changes what special abilities the different bad guys you're facing are going to have. And that's fine, but I really wish that you were moving around through the different eras. Like, oh, in this era, there is a wall here, but if we can take ourselves to 2077, there is no wall there, so we can pass by. And so I think it's not that type of time travel game. Each of the different eras is more of a different level of the game that you're playing, because you're going to spend different entire missions in different eras on different maps. So there's a little bit of miss there. It does do a good job of explaining why you're facing the same types of enemies in every single era, and it does explain that, but you're also not getting that. So you're not going back in 1077 facing a bunch of, Vikings and knights only, while in 3077 you're facing just all robots. You're going to come across with skeleton warriors and robots and everything in every different era. The next thing I'm going to say is it's hard to solo. It's just playing 4 characters, even though you don't have to move them all around, and they're relatively simple, and I do enjoy the combat. It does feel like a lot. That is the absolute edge of what I was able to manage, because I play most of this type of game solo. And so it is a lot to solo. I think playing 2-player with each player taking control of 2 characters, I think that's probably where it's going to be at its best. But it was a little bit harder to solo than I expected it would be. And then the last 2 things I'm going to bring out have to do with the thing that I think is the best part of the game. That is the combat. I think combat is great. It's also not fast. It is a slower thing. You're stopping, you're figuring out, okay, how do I order these things? Do I want to spend my energy now? Okay, I think I have that set. Wait, but what are you doing over there? And which person should I attack? And then the bad guys activate very quickly, but then you have to stop and say, oh, wait, but Did the cards that I played, were there enough skulls on those that activates the special abilities of the bad guys? And combat is slow. And that brings me to the second part of this is all of the random events, which I have already said I love. Almost all of them end up with combat of some sort. There are some. There are some that you don't have combat and just nothing happens. And I think there's maybe one or two that you just get something good and you move on. But it's almost always going to end in combat, which is, as I said, it's slower. And so I will admit there were a few times when I was going through and I was just really into the story. I wanted to get to the next big thing. It was a random encounter that I had to do and it was combat. I was like, okay. And I just knocked some health off of myself and I knocked down some energy based on roughly what I'd lost last time. And I moved on because I wanted to get on with it. And that can happen sometimes. And also, I'll admit, I played a bunch of games in a row, so that might also be something to do with it. I know the first few games I played, I just dug into every single combat. But just something to understand, almost all of those events are going to end up with combat of some sort. And combat can have a lot of enemies, and it can be a little bit slow. But there you have it, folks. That is Castle von Loghan. I think this is a very clever game. I think it is definitely unique in the sense that the way the combat works, I think is very inspired, and it's almost worth grabbing this game just for that combat. And so I think if you enjoy the idea behind this kind of time travel with an interesting story, a lot of characters that feel very different, and you like the idea of the combat, I can't express that enough. All the combat is done through each character's deck. You flip out cards, and your cards might say, you get hit. Or they might say, you do something. But if you are interested in that, you like that idea of moving the cards around, which is so thematic, then it's worth checking out. It is a very interesting game, and one that I'm thrilled that I've actually played all the way through now. So, there you have it, folks. That is Castle von Loghan. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.